I want to talk about a psychological mismatch because you did talk about earlier about people considering taking their own lives. 30% of millennials, I believe you said.
Teenage girls
Teenage
today.
girls.
Yeah.
Teenage girls today considering taking their own life. And how different we are from an ancestral environment as far as our psychology is concerned. It's hard to be depressed when you're hungry. Like you're out looking for food, right?
Yeah.
Every day is survival. And I remember, U.S. military boot camp or survival school. The last thing I felt was depressed. Everything I felt was we need to get to the next moment. And I wonder if you have any studies on this or if you've got any information on this, the mismatch of our environment about how little the struggle. I push a button and then food comes up. And on a minimum wage salary, I can buy enough calories, carbs, fat, and protein to kill myself, literally kill myself very quickly. And I'm just wondering if you have any data as far as that's concerned, how that can lead to depression.
So much of that. Firstly, the best depression medication that we know of works 40% of the time.
Yeah.
Exercise works 80% of the time, twice as well.
Yes.
Right? Moving your body, convincing your brain that things are okay and you actually need to progress. And the neurochemicals will change. The brain doesn't know what's happening. The brain's relying on your thoughts, meaning that the conscious words in your head, the 40 million neural cells in your heart that are through emotion also thinking and sending signals, and the instinct in your gut, the vagus nerve, is also directly connected to the brain, right?
Nervous system.
So that's all these forms of thought are convincing your brain what's happening next. So if you can change the thought through movement, that's one. Now, having said all that, the systems that affect, am I depressed or not depressed? And in today's reality where you really aren't depressed per se, the vast majority of people that I deal with that are suicidal, depressed, have anxiety, don't have those things. They have a genetic superpower in their neural wiring that is in the wrong context. So for example, there may be somebody that has the opposite of me. They're very high dopamine levels and a very slow clearance. They are designed for binging, very deep, high quality thinking, right? Take that person, again, put them in the middle and try and get them to work on here's your 10 tasks that are due next week.
Yeah.
Right? And they can't because they hyper prioritize what they value. They binge, they get stuck, they clear their neurochemicals so fast. And do that week after week after week. They just feel, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, they're disappointing other people. And that load, which they were wired for a superpower of I am the expert, right? I'm the chase the shiny object, don't have enough dopamine. This is the specialist and the expert. Lock me in a room and let me focus. Trying to be the specialist, going to fry your brain. The second big one is the gut. I can't tell you how many people I'm dealing with that have mood and behavior type issues where they're medicating the mood and behavior issue is when all we need to do is fix their gut. Again, direct vagal nerve connection, bidirectional communication all day long, leaky gut leading to leaky brain, leading to brain inflammation. How many mood and behavior issues get resolved by fixing the gut? I would say a good majority.
Yeah,
it's a slice of it. It's a big chunk. It's a majority. Right?
Daniel Perlmutter in his book Grain Brain, he talks about, you ever seen the snotty nosed kid with the big inflamed sinuses, and he's always snotty all the time. I remember growing up with him, and he's like, we just got him off bread, and the snottiness just goes away. I was like, I remember that in the 80s, seeing that everywhere. These kids are just so snotty, just all the time. They looked like they were having some inflammation and they couldn't grasp what was going on. But that was because we had that little food triangle. You remember?
Upside down triangle.
The upside down triangle. Where they told us, you need this much milk every single day. And you need this much bread. Thank you, farmers of America.
Another big one is adrenaline. You mentioned that earlier, right? So there's a gene called ADRA2B that regulates your adrenaline response. And do you have an appropriate amount of adrenaline during that impact, right? And so some people don't. And so when that thing happens, car accident, fight or whatever, we're meant to hold on to and imprint that trauma. That's actually when the epigenetic expression happens. Car accident, big deal, feel the action. Epigenetic expression happens to avoid that location.
So that's the evolutionary adaptation because that keeps us from dying. The trauma is the response that keeps us from dying. And so that would get passed on quicker than, for instance, change of skin color, which would take 100,000 years.
Yes, exactly. That's instant. It's and that's not a edit. It's not evolution. It's an expression. It will turn off, right?
Okay, yeah.
So now the person that doesn't regulate this pathway well doesn't only bind the intellectual memory of the trauma, they also bind the emotion. Which means the next time that thing happens again, they feel it as if it's a continuation. It's as if it's happening again. Have that in today's reality, 2024, where there's plenty of reasons to have trauma, problems, and anxiety. That person's going to feel like they're depressed all the time. And they just don't know how to describe what they feel. It's not depression. It's that all these reminders keep bringing the feeling back. And I constantly feel like things are traumatic. right? That could feel like depression. So I only say that because there's so many things that also get misdiagnosed that need to be hyper personalized in terms of what they actually are.
Yeah, I mean, part of the mismatch would be, 200,000 years ago, we have this massive expansion of the human brain. When you say human, we mean Homo habilis, Homo australis, Homo neanderthalis, Homo sapiens, all of them. And then, but they didn't have as big a brain as we did, especially in comparison to our body. And part of the reason why people estimate, anthropologists and evolutionary psychologists, is this is the first point at which Homo sapiens pick up the spear.
Yeah.
Because one Homo sapien is the apex predator, but it's not one Homo sapien. It's a group of Homo sapiens working together through communication. So now you consider all this teamwork I use in order to kill meat, to procure protein for my tribe. Of course, I should receive positive reinforcement in my brain, the reward center of my brain. I don't think you and I have ever experienced anything probably analogous to the hunter who brings home the protein for his starving tribe 50,000 years ago. Because that's all they had. There's probably enough. Racing the Lamborghini does not come anywhere near probably the feelings they had, the reward they had. And so now I ask my clients this all the time. The ancestral male, which one got rewarded? The one who stayed in the cave and was sad for himself, felt bad because he didn't get chosen by the mate he wanted, or messed up trying to kill the deer, or the one who went out and tried again and continued to try every day and overcame obstacles? Which one would evolution have rewarded with more offspring and better emotions in their brain? And then that's where your depression comes from. This is a massive evolutionary mismatch. This world has become too easy. We created we talk about calluses. We created a callus-free environment. Look how soft my microphone is. This chair is so soft that I'm wearing here. And so, all the things that we have here, my ergonomically prepared device here that has the world's information on it. And I'm like, I'm so depressed because Sally didn't call me back today. And I'm like, you live after antibiotics. I was reading somewhere before the year 1850, 50% of the Earth's population, or 50% of people who'd ever lived had died before the age of 5. Crazy numbers like that.
That is awesome.
32%. If you make $32,000 a year and you're in the top 1% of wage earners on Earth, and half the Earth's population lives on less than $5 a day, the top 10 wealthiest people in the world have the wealth of the bottom 60% of poorest people in the world. And so we just live in a very different time than we did before. And you can, on a middle class salary, fly to go see your family members that live 12,000 miles away, whereas your ancestors 400 years ago, they're never making it to Casablanca, Monaco. They're never going to make there ever in their entire life. So I think a lot of people don't realize how much easier we have it. And because of that, that's where a lot of the depression comes from.